Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Uncle Matt here for our Friday night live stream. Thank you if you're joining us. If you're watching this on replay, either way, make sure you're subscribed to the channel with the bell turned on for notifications. It's going to be kind of a quick one, I think, because we don't have too much to preview this weekend. No wrestling, Nashville SC is kind of wrapped up. No further news after last week's news dump for the roster decisions for the initial roster. We do have MLS Cup this weekend. I'll share a few quick thoughts on that. I've got my full picks for the NFL slate. Dig into a little bit of Titans, but they don't play till Monday, so we got a little bit of time to kind of sit on that one, break that one down. Just jump in real quick and say, if you haven't done so already, jump over and follow me on social media channels outside of YouTube. I've got an Instagram account, Twitter account, TikTok. Those are all linked down below. Earlier this week, I did a vlog showcasing 3 Nashville restaurants that were participating in Nashville Taco Week. I've since done, I believe, 2 further updates that I posted just on Instagram and TikTok because they were just short, little quick, like 10-second videos as opposed to a whole vlog. So if you want to see more of that, see more of the options, if you're local to the area of what you can eat there, go there. And just, if you want to see my immediate, like, insane rants and reactions to like Titans and Manchester United stuff, Twitter's the place to go. So follow me down below if you haven't done so already. I guess the MLS Cup's the best place to start. It's tomorrow. I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts on it, but I know we cover a lot of MLS stuff here on the channel, so might as well, knock that out since it's kind of the last opportunity to talk MLS this season. We got Columbus Crew against LAFC. I almost said LA Galaxy. Rough day. If I was going to bet one way or the other, I'd probably go with LAFC. They're defending champs. They probably have the stronger roster on paper. But Columbus, they've got that knack of winning. Their coach is really good. He's found ways to win everywhere he's been in MLS. They did a good job of like recycling players that had left MLS and came back. I kind of think Columbus is kind of the model Nashville SC should follow. We're never going to be like a LAFC, LA Galaxy, Miami team. We're not going to go splash big on huge big name signings for former like superstar players. So, it's one of the reasons I've kind of maintained we should stick with Gary. I've never been Gary out is you got that consistency. If you can constantly keep yourself in the playoffs, constantly keep yourself in the mix, you just need that one season where everything clicks into place, where the right players come in, the right, circumstances fall into place, and you can jump up and push your way up into the mix to go for a championship. And that's kind of what Columbus did this season. They got a few key signings right, bring in Cucho, I'm going to mispronounce his name in, DeRios, people who know what I'm talking about. I never pronounce names right. And then just some of the established like key MLS veterans they had there, like Nagby, and then a veteran coach like Nancy, their coach, who, how much is Montreal kicking themselves for letting that guy go now, because he's immediately turned Columbus into an MLS Cup challenger. Caleb Porter, one of those dudes, who's had them in the mix, always had them in the mix. They turn one over, next guy in, which that could be an argument for Gary out. Maybe I'm going against myself here, but I like what Columbus has done. I think they're a good model to follow for a team like Nashville SC. I mean, we've already basically, we have a little banter back and forth with them in the community that, we say they copied our colors, but I mean, it's our city colors, so it's not really copying them. It's just kind of worked out weird that way. And got kind of the same stadium design and stuff like that. So maybe like saying, hey, we should just mimic everything Columbus does, maybe isn't the best like way to go when it comes to the inter-club banter. But I mean, like, for a small market team, they've pretty much, done things the right way for the large majority of their time in MLS, outside of that brief period where the scumbag owner tried to move them to Austin. But we experienced that here in Nashville too, where the scumbag owner tried to come in and sweep the Predators out from underneath us and take them up to Winnipeg. So we've had that under our belt too. So a lot of similarities between Nashville and Columbus. So from a just, wanting a team that we can emulate to do something well, I'd probably be pulling for Columbus. But it's hard to see, it's one of those, you pick a team until they don't win anymore. And there's a lot of, speculation about some of the key players from LAFC. Maybe this is their time to cycle out. Vela rumored to maybe be moving on afterwards. Chiellini possibly going out. I mean, I don't know if it's a Saudi deal. I don't know if it's Qatar, but a lot of rumblings that some of their key players are going to be gone after this season. So you can see them really putting in a big effort to get one more MLS Cup in before they kind of have to rebuild and recycle. So I'd pick LAFC. That's what my head says. Heart says Columbus. rooting for Columbus. That's my thoughts on MLS Cup for tomorrow. Other big thing to talk about NFL. Before we get into the specific picks for this weekend, I made one bet I want to share. It's a new, fresh bet. I kind of got this from listening to part of my take, but I think there's a lot of logic to jump on this bet that even they didn't get into. The more I thought about it, they started talking about like putting some money on Will Anderson, the first round draft pick, defensive lineman for the Texans, to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's currently, I believe, depending on what book you look at, he's second or third in the odds. Jalen Carter at the Eagles is, I think that's his name. Jalen Carter at the Eagles is the favorite. He's like minus 200. Will Anderson is anywhere from like plus 350 to plus 400. Here was my logic is like, okay, voters in the AP love voting on the unexpected team, the unexpected players. The coach of the year isn't rarely ever like the best coach, the coach who actually did, the incredible job that got the team to the Super Bowl. Like Bill Belichick is maybe won it like once, maybe twice. Andy Reid doesn't have it that many times. He's usually a coach of the year usually goes to a team that everybody thought they were going to suck, and then they were kind of good, and that coach gets coach of the year. Like I think the leading candidates right now are probably Texans, D'Amico Ryan, Colts, Shane Stricken or whatever his name is, Steichen, who cares? But the Texans have a lot of that mojo of like the kind of unexpected team that they kind of get all those kind of votes, those kind of picks. So, D'Amico Ryans, he might be one you want to jump on for coach of the year. Obviously, C.J. Stroud is probably running away with offensive rookie of the year. But Will Anderson's like right there, right in the neck where it's still like profitable to bet on him for defensive rookie of the year. And here's what he's got coming up. This Sunday, the Texans play the Jets. The Jets are throwing Zach Wilson back into the starting fold at quarterback. They can't block anybody. They have the worst offensive line in the NFL. They let Aaron Rodgers get crippled within 5 minutes of playing for their team. They're one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. It's a great opportunity for that dude to go out and get some numbers, to get some pressure, to get some sacks. And against Zach Wilson, you don't just get sacks. You don't just it's not like a pocket collapses and it falls on top of him. He's going to sprint like 20 yards backwards and just get demolished for like 50-yard losses. The kind of sacks that like get on the highlight reels, that make Sports Center, that get on the highlight tape. So he's got a big chance there. But going beyond the Jets game, and this is, a little inside information, a little straight out of the Nashville news cycle. The Texans, 2 out of their last 3 games are against the Titans, who probably, just everything I just said about the Jets, Titans have an even worse offensive line. Like, this dude has an opportunity to rack up a lot of sacks in these last 4 games. Like, Titans twice, like a defensive lineman, if I was looking at my schedule and I was like, I get the Titans twice, I'd be licking my chops. I would absolutely be licking my chops. Let me see who the other game they play is. I want to see who that 4th game is for them. Because if they get like another like kind of cakewalk team. All right, so Texans. So last 4 games. Jets, Titans. Oh, I guess there's more games than I thought there was. So they got Jets, Titans, Browns, who will be playing Joe Flacco. I like my chances of Joe Flacco getting knocked off his head because he's a statue at this point in his career. He's not going to be moving around a whole lot. Titans again, and then the Colts, who we just saw, don't have the greatest pass protection in the world. So there's a good chance in these last 5 games that Will Anderson could really cook, could really get some hits, could really get some big plays. The one thing that probably benefits Jalen Carter, who's currently the favorite, is that he probably is going to have more showcase opportunities to really do it. But the Eagles are kind of losing a little steam. They've got the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, so he's going to have a primetime game where if he can get after Dak, make a big impact in that game, that'll get him a lot of attention. They're in primetime the very next week, another game on Monday Night Football. Then they've got like a weird Christmas Day game like in the middle of the day. So they got like basically next 3 games for the Eagles are all going to be highlight primetime games. They're going to get a lot of attention. So he's going to have more of a showcase in terms of like being in the bigger spotlight, Jalen Carter and the Eagles, than what Will Anderson will have for the Texans. But I mean, I got him at plus 400, which I mean, I'll throw that down because he's, that's the second best odds. Like I said, the teams he's coming up against the next couple of weeks, if there's ever a time to build up your stats to like go out and get some sacks, this is it for that guy. So something to look at if you're looking for some like late season futures to jump on. Will Anderson's not the worst idea, just looking at what he's got coming up to face against. So, with that, we'll get into the picks before we talk a little Titans, Dolphins. Last week went really well for us. Let me pull this up here. I think we finished 7-4-1. Not bad at all. So 7 wins. We got 7 bets right, 4 losses, 1 push. I'll take that. That's pretty solid. That's about where you want to be, to be a profitable week. And looking through, like the ones we missed, Jaguars -10. I mean, I don't think anybody could have seen the Bengals being as comfortable as they were in that game. Eagles +3. That was kind of could have gone either way. Didn't think they'd get blown out as bad as they ended up getting blown out. Other 2 losses, Patriots. Once again, I just can't get on the right side of the Chargers. I almost should just skip Chargers games at this point in time. Pick them +4.5. I think it was 6-0 Chargers. What the heck? Steelers -6.5. Lost to the freaking Cardinals. What's happening to the Steelers? I mean, I know Pickett's out now, so good grief. What are they going to do going forward? Let's look at my power rankings. I updated the power rankings. I did this before last night, so this doesn't take into account that the Steelers did whatever the heck they did last night and lost to the Patriots of all teams. But here's the updated rankings. And the weird thing about this is, and I was going through this, I was like, we're going to get to a point in this rankings where I'm looking at this and I'm saying, this team's high in the rankings, but it's a team that probably wants to lose games and not make the playoffs and get good draft position. There's maybe 6 teams this season that feel like they probably actually want to make the playoffs. It's crazy. So I got 49ers number 1. You can't put them anywhere else after they just demolished the Eagles last week. I kept the Eagles at second. You could maybe knock them down because they're starting to show some weaknesses. But I mean, what a gauntlet they've had to go through. And now they get the Cowboys again. And several of the games that they had to play in this stretch were teams on short rest. Like the 49ers, I think, had 10 days off before they had to play the Eagles. So really tough stretch for the Eagles. To have only lost 1 so far in that stretch is incredible. We'll see what happens Sunday night against the Cowboys. That maybe is, once again, not the best spot for them. But I got the Ravens 3. I've got the Cowboys all the way up to 4. Chiefs 5. Jaguars 6. Lions 7. Texans 8. Dolphins 9. Packers 10. Bills 11. Broncos 12. And this is where you're starting to get into teams that are in the mix for the playoffs. But if all the fans base had it their way, they probably would rather have a top 10 pick than make the playoffs this year. Colts 13, Browns 14, Seahawks 15, Rams 16, Vikings 17, Bengals 18, Raiders 19, Steelers 20, Chargers 21, Bucks 22, Commanders 23, Titans 24, Cardinals 25, Falcons 26, Saints 27, Bears 28, Giants 29, Panthers 30, Jets 31, Patriots 32. I feel like I might, if I was going to redo this right now, sneak the Falcons up a little bit and maybe knock the Bucks down. I don't know. This is, once you go past the top 10, it's just a jumble of mediocre to bad teams that are just all fighting to either tank or what. I don't the Colts fans. I think about the Colts, they're in playoff position right now, and I can't imagine. You want to win. You always want to be successful. To get in the playoffs would be great. I want the Titans in the playoffs. I'm not going to lie, but I mean, if you gave me a magic genie, and I could just rub it and say, "Hey, would you rather the Titans get into the playoffs as the 8 seed and get demolished by the Dolphins in the first round, or would you rather have a top 10 pick?" I'd probably take a top 10 pick, but if you could do that without having to go through the suffering of the losses you have to get through to get to be a top 10 pick, that would be the way to go. But I mean, that's just not how sports work. So, let's go through this week's picks. Going to DraftKings as always. Once again, these, I say this every week, not that anybody ever follows or fades or does anything with these. These aren't official picks. These aren't bets I'm necessarily going to make. I'm just saying if I was going to bet one side or the other on every game for this weekend, this is the way I would go. Start with the Lions. Bears feels like a trap, but I'm not going to overthink it. Lions 3.5 point favorite. I'm going to take them. The Bears have looked a little bit better the last few weeks. Lions have been shaky. Every time you trust a team like the Bears, that's when they fall back down to earth and remind you how bad they are. So we're going Lions. Rams, Ravens. Ravens 7.5 point favorite. Rumors going around that Lamar Jackson has his diarrhea, his yearly diarrhea fit this week. I hope I'm, not making a joke if he's got a really serious illness, but that was the instant thing that my mind, and I think a lot of other people's mind too, went to when it was reported that he was missing practices due to illnesses. That, oh, this is that time of year where Lamar Jackson always seems to get like violent diarrhea. So uh Rams have been playing good football, but it's like I think every time the Ravens play a team that's anywhere inferior, particularly it seems like NFC teams, they always just smoke them. So I'll take Ravens 7.5, even though that's like a little big when their quarterback might have to like leave the game to poop at any given moment. Texans, Jets. Every week it feels like the Texans line is too low. But then I heard somebody run through the Texans' recent scores, and every game has been like 6, 3, 2, 4. As good as they've looked, as impressive as they've been, as surprising as they've been, they don't seem to like really separate from teams. They don't really like blow teams out. They don't really get big wins. But it's the Jets. Going back to Zach Wilson. I mean, I think I have to take Texans 3.5 because it would feel like the stupid. Like if I take Texans 3.5 and that bet loses, I won't feel bad about it. But if I was like, oh, Jets plus 3.5, and then looked at it this time next week on next week's live stream, I'd be like, why in the world did I take Jets plus 3.5? Like sometimes that's what you got to do when you're like making picks. You got to say, will I regret this win, lose, or draw? I would not regret taking Texans 3.5, taking Texans minus 3.5, and it loses. I'd be like, what the heck happened there? That was a weird one. But if I took Jets plus 3.5 and the Texans win this game by like 17, I'll be like, you're the worst gambler ever. Why are you even giving out picks? So Texans minus 3.5. Colts, Bengals. And I just got a close-up look at the Colts. They're a solid, if not spectacular team. But after what the Bengals did against the Jaguars on Monday Night Football, it's kind of like, is like Browning one of those like Minshew type backups who can come in and be competent enough? I mean, the weapons you've got in Cincinnati around you, if you're just like a halfway competent, decent quarterback who's just not going to like throw the ball directly to the defense every snap, you can do something. This is probably the toughest one of the week. Man, it's Bengals minus 2 is the spread at Cincinnati. What would you do? You know what? Let's go. Man. If I want to jinx one of these teams, I want to jinx the Colts. I'm going to take the Colts plus 2 to just maybe throw some bad mojo their way. Bucks at Falcons. I think the Falcons win this game, but I have been on the Bucks bandwagon all season, early on in the season. What the heck? I kind of latched on them and said they might be the sneaky surprise team this year. I think Baker's, better than people give him credit for. I think now he's in a potentially better situation. He can get things done. And I think he's been okay this season. He's maybe not been spectacular. Their defense has been a little sus. They've had a lot of injuries. They've let me down. But I mean, I feel like if I turn on the Bucks now, this is the week they'll win this game by like 25. But the Falcons aren't that good either. But just by instinct, I have to stick with the Bucks because they've been my kind of dark horse team all season. And if I turn on them now, this is when they'll make me look stupid for turning on them. So Falcons probably win this game, but I'm going Bucks plus 2 just because I've been on them all season. I have to stick with them. I have to see it through to the end. Sometimes you just have to keep going. If you're going through hell, keep on going. Don't look back. If you're scared, don't show it. That's the song. That's what they say. Panthers, Saints. I mean, Saints are 6-point favorites, but the Saints at this point might be worse than the Panthers. This game sucks. Whatever. Panthers. I'll go Panthers plus 6 because they've been playing competitive at least. They gave us a decent game, but we sucked the Titans. Saints just suck so bad. Like the idea that they could win by 6 just seems crazy, even against the Panthers. So I'll go Panthers plus 6, whatever. Mm. Jaguars, Browns. This one's totally up in the air right now because I think everybody expects, Trevor Lawrence to be out after the way he looked severely injured Monday night, but he's been back practicing already. Like, there's some weird vibes around that. Like, did he oversell the injury on Monday? Like, is he like trying to like make himself look like a tough guy by acting more injured in one game, then come back the next game? Browns defense, I tell you what, I would not, if there's any chance that he's even nigglingly hurt, they're in a pretty good spot right now. Like, they've probably lost their shot at the number 1 seed. But I mean, they're pretty comfortably in control of the AFC South at this point in time. I don't know that if there's any chance that Trevor Lawrence is at all hobbled or hurt at all, I would want him having to be out there against Myles Garrett. So I think this line is probably close because he's been practicing, but if I was the Jags, I would not play him. I would like keep him out. I would let Myles Garrett just destroy Joe Flacco. Or no, Myles Garrett plays on the same team as Joe Flacco. Stupid. Let CJ Beathard be the person who gets the brunt of Myles Garrett's wrath in this game. So not knowing if that's going to happen, either way, I'm going Browns 2.5, minus 2.5 for the Browns. 49ers, Seahawks. 49ers minus 13. I mean, the 49ers should be head and shoulders better than the Seahawks. They seem healthy. They seem to be firing all cylinders. The only, maybe caveat you have here is, do they have any kind of emotional letdown after the huge game they had against the Eagles this past week? I like their coaching. I like their team. I like the guys they have there. I don't think they're the type of team that's going to come back down to earth after that. I think if anything, they're going to want to fire off and keep going, because they put themselves in pole position for the top seed in the NFC. I don't think they're going to want to let that slip when they've got such good control over it. So I'm going to go 49ers minus 13. All that is a crazy huge spread against a team that's, fiery, competitive. The Seahawks gave the Cowboys a decent game a couple weeks back. It's a tough one, but I think the 49ers are going to want to keep things going, so I'll give them minus 13. Vikings, Raiders. Vikings minus 3, Raiders plus 3. This is what I was talking about earlier. There's so many teams that just suck. Like, Vikings are on the cusp of being in the playoffs, and, they suck. Would they be better if Kirk Cousins was still in? Probably. But, I mean, Josh Dobbs has been all right, but he kind of did the same thing he did in Arizona where he had, 2 good games, then kind of, came back down to earth a little bit. Raiders got the new coach balance when they got rid of Josh McDaniels. They've been riding that high a little bit. In Las Vegas, I mean, who's playing for the Raiders right now? Is Jimmy Garoppolo still? I just don't even know what's going on in Vegas. Is Jimmy Garoppolo playing? Is it Aiden O'Connell or whoever their backup was? I don't know. We're going sight unseen. I know nothing about the Raiders. I just think the Vikings. I think the Josh Dobbs magic is worn off there. So we're going Raiders plus 3. Bills and Chiefs. Bills coming off the bye. Desperate to get back in good graces. Although, if you didn't see this week, this is one of the wildest stories I've seen in the NFL in some time. And I tweeted about this a little bit. I had a tweet kind of in reference to this. So Sean McDermott, head coach of the Buffalo Bills, he's been on a little fire this season. He was the belle of the ball. Might have even won a coach of the year somewhere in the last couple of years with the work he's done up there. But it seems to be he's the last 2 seasons where the Bills have kind of come back down to earth a little bit. He's kind of getting the brunt of the blame a little bit. He's, under the hot seat. We're seeing some similar things with Vrabel here, but it feels maybe a little bit louder with McDermott. I don't know if it's because of, they have, some really clear-cut superstar players there in the Titans roster. You can kind of fall on your sword there and go, well, Vrabel's doing the best he can with what he's got. Sean McDermott's waste and Josh Allen's and Stephon Diggs. I don't know if that's the case, but so the story that came out this week is, I believe this is going back to 2021. Sean McDermott was given a team speech at some point in the season. And he said, we need to communicate better. We need to work better as a team. We need to get on the same page. We need to, adjust and find the same, wavelength, the same tactics. He's and he tried to relate to his team that the way the terrorists who orchestrated the attack on September 11th, 2001, the way they coordinated their attack, the way they worked together, the way they communicated was something that his team should emulate. And I can't imagine that was the point he was actually trying to get to. I don't think he was trying to say, like, these terrorists did such a great job. Why can't we be more like them? I think, I compared it to, like, Michael Scott, or there's this famous Michael Scott quote from The Office where it's like, sometimes I start a sentence and I don't necessarily know where it's going. I coached high school soccer for years, and I always tried to make sure if I was going in to give a team talk, if I was going in to give a speech, I wanted to know every single word that was going to come out of my mouth because I knew. I don't think I ever would have said, "Hey, the terrorists in 9/11 did such a good job of working together. Why can't we do that?" I don't think I ever got to that point. But I was pretty sure that if I didn't have like a pretty clear idea of what I wanted to say before I started talking, I might Michael Scott myself and just end up in the wrong part of a sentence. I mostly stole out of my team talks from wrestling promos. I did like 100 CM Punk promos, 100 Stone Cold Steve Austin promos, just to my team. Like, luck is for losers. You go out there and take it. That team over there, whatever. I'm gonna not remember them all, and I'll probably stumble into saying something I shouldn't have. But like, I think, I can't imagine he like thought out, like, and planned out. I'm gonna tell everybody on this football team to be more like terrorists that killed countless Americans in one of the worst attacks on U.S. soil. I think he thought there was some kind of motivation he could pull from the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and he had that in his head. And then when he started talking, it turned in his brain, and he started just going in the wrong direction. He just kept going down the wrong path and got lost. Maybe I'm being too nice. Maybe I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. But here's the thing. That speech was in 2021. The report that he did that just came out basically like today, yesterday, like the last 48 hours. Here's the thing. Somebody who is very familiar with the way we don't see this that much in American football, but in European football, players, when they get unhappy, are very quick to go to their agents and feed some information to their agents that their agents will then in turn go feed to key journalists in the media to get it released. Somebody in Buffalo in a key position who would be able to get journalist ear is very unhappy with Sean McDermott and got this story from 2020 out there. Had been sitting on this, had been waiting on this, had been just saying, I cannot wait to leak this to the media. And they leaked it right now. Right when they're coming off this bye week, when they have a chance to maybe salvage their season against the Chiefs, who have, been up and down all season long. This to me is like, there's going to be people who like focusing on like, oh man, what kind of leader is this Sean McDermott guy? Like, what kind of idiot gives this kind of speech? To me, the fact that it came out now, if he gave this speech 2 years ago, tells me he's lost the locker room. The inmates are trying to run the asylum. They're going to the media. They're screaming from the rooftops. This guy's an idiot. Look at what he was doing back in 2021. They're trying to get him out. Their agents are going to the media, leaking these stories. There's only going to be more to come. There's only going to be more unrest. There's only going to be more leaks, more sources going to the media of, oh, Sean McDermott's lost the locker room. And if it's got to that point, it probably means it has, because one thing in soccer, it happens all the time. Like, it's happening with Manchester United right now. There's Jadon Sancho is going to the locker room going, well, 50% of the locker rooms turn on Eric Ten Hag. Meanwhile, like, manager of the month, player of the month, goal of the month. 3 points out of the top 4. Not a position you'd be in if half the locker room hated your guts and wanted you out. So, on the other hand, these things don't happen in the NFL that often. So the fact that there's any inkling of it tells me there's a lot more smoke. This is more one where there's smoke, there's fire. In England and Europe and soccer, it's more just like players think they can do that kind of stuff and get away with it and push to get a move or push to get whatever they want, especially at Manchester United, where like players have had way too much power for the last few years. But that tells me there's a lot more trouble in Buffalo than what we're aware of. I think a lot of people are looking at this as this is their bounce back game. They're coming off a bye. To me, I don't think that's it's an idiotic, stupid thing for him to have said. But the fact that something he said 2 years ago just now got leaked to the media tells me that locker room is turning on him and people want him out. So I'm going Chiefs -1. That was a really weird way to build up to say I want Chiefs -1. But yeah, I think the Buffalo Bills could be, the season's been up and down for them so far, but I think they might be about to implode. Yeah, I think it's all about to go wrong for the Buffalo Bills. Could be wrong. I don't know. This is me bringing things I've seen and learned from soccer into American football. So maybe it's not the smartest logic, but I mean, somebody leaking something like that happened 2 years ago. That locker room's unsettled. That's all I'll say. Broncos, Chargers. I'm going Broncos 2.5. I hate the Chargers. Like they'll win because I'm going against them. They're the stupidest team. Eagles, Cowboys. Sunday Night Football, big matchup. Eagles on the ropes in crazy tough stretch of games. Like, did the Eagles do something to upset Roger Goodell? Why did he make them play this absolutely insane, brutal gauntlet of games? Like, I still think talent-wise, they should be the most talented team in the league. Jalen Hurts, though, looks really badly beaten up. He's looking shaky. It's just they're looking like they're running on fumes. But this is exactly where the Cowboys get you. And my good friend, the Bear at Texas, he's going to be all over this. He's going to tell everybody, you're an idiot if you think the Cowboys are going to sneak back in. Everybody in the media is saying it. This is the Cowboys moment. Future bet the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl. Future bet the Cowboys to win the division. The Eagles are on the ropes. The Cowboys have been on fire. They've been smashing teams. This is exactly where the Cowboys fall apart. But here's the one thing that might go against that. Mike McCarthy had appendicitis this week. He's supposedly going to be available and back to coach by Sunday night. But he seems like a big fat dummy when it comes to being a coach. So if he's missing and somebody else is running the ship, does that help the Cowboys? I don't know. My gut tells me this is going to be the game where everybody loads up on the Cowboys, forgets how dominant the Eagles have been for the past 3 years because of one bad game against the 49ers and goes, America's team is back. Jerry's got the boys fired up. Come on. Let's go, Cowboys. And then the Eagles just come in and stomp them. So I'm going Eagles plus 3.5. And then, very smartly, the NFL gave us 2 Monday night games, although neither one looks like particularly good. But we'll start with the one that doesn't involve my team first. We've got Giants, Packers. Doubleheader on Monday Night Football. They gave you 2 terrible Monday night games. So it's basically if you think this one's worse, watch the other one. Giants, Packers. Packers have been on fire lately. They really seem to be going on a roll. Jordan Love seems to have found his stride. Giants, they've got a little bit of fire out of DeVito, the little fun, what's the matter with you? Spark the last couple of weeks. Don't know that keeps going. I think the Packers probably get here. They're 6.5-point favorites. Should they be able to win by a touchdown? Yes. We're going Packers -6.5 there. That brings us, we'll wrap up to the game. That if you know me, if you follow the channel, the one that I have the most interest in this week is Titans, Dolphins. Dolphins, 13-point favorites in this game. And rightly so. I've heard a lot. There's been up and down. There's been Titans fans who are just doom and gloom, we're absolutely going to get killed. There's other Titans fans being like, we're not that bad. We're not that bad. But I think the problem with this game, it's not so much that the Dolphins are insanely better than us. It's that what they're better than us at just matches up so poorly with what we're worst at. So teams that dink and dunk, that want to run, that want to have a balanced offense, we can kind of manage those teams and stick into games with those teams. A team like the Dolphins that is just all about explosive plays, that's a team that's going to kill us. The idea of Tyreek Hill against the Titans secondary, I mean, what have the Titans done at any point this season that make you think that he will have less than 200 yards unless the Dolphins pull him early just because they're smoking us so bad? That, to me, that's the only scenario where this is not a 30, 40 plus win for the Dolphins, is if they just call off the dogs and realize they've got it in control and pull back early. I mean, 13 seems low, honestly, because here's the thing. I think I saw today the Dolphins average 32 points a game. The Titans, on the other hand, have not scored 30 in a game since like 2, 3 years ago. Like I think it's over like 700, 800 plus days since the Titans last scored 30 points in a game. And this season, I think we've only even broke 20, maybe like 3, 4 times tops. So like you got a team that just on average is scoring 30 points. Now going against our team that probably is going to be mincemeat compared to their attack, the way they attack teams. And then you're going to ask Will Levis to go shot for shot with that. No chance. No chance. This is worst possible match for the Titans, worst possible scenario for the Titans to be in. I got to go. I hate to do it because it's just so embarrassing to like go this hard against your own team. But I mean, I'm not going to bet it because I can't do that to my team. But you have to take Dolphins minus 13 because I think I've heard this from a lot of Titans fans. We're feeling vibes to the build up to the famous, infamous, I guess, 59-0 loss we had to the Patriots. At least this won't be a snow game. Actually, maybe this would be better if it was a snow game because that was at least kind of a cool thing to watch. Was just like playing in a full-on blizzard and almost distract you from the fact that your team was just getting cut to shreds by the Patriots and that 59-0 loss all those years ago. Could see this one going similarly. You're like, man, like 42-7, 35-0. Like I said, I think the only scenario where they don't just completely like historically demolish us is if they just get up so much early that they pull the foot off the gas and just like try to coast and make sure they get out of the game without any injuries. So it's just not a good spot for us. I mean, it's coming off last week, as I wanted us to do, as everybody in Titans Nation wanted us to do. We fired Craig Ackerman, our terrible special teams coach, who just, put on an absolute masterclass in how not to be a successful NFL coach last week when we allowed 2 straight block punts, got our punter, who's probably the best player on the team, destroyed, demolished, knocked out for the season. Missed an extra point because our backup holder didn't know how to hold a kick because he never practiced it because nobody thought that would be a good idea for anybody to practice being a holder other than the main guy who holds. But it made me think of like a little bit of a bigger picture thing with the Titans because there's been a lot of criticism over the years of Mike Vrabel being too loyal to his assistants, not, willing to quickly pull the trigger. And I was looking at it, I was thinking about it, the situation with the special teams, with Craig Ackerman finally getting fired after 6 years, how long he hung on to Todd Downing when Todd Downing should have been gone. Him giving Shane Bowen a little bit of extra rope when everybody wanted Shane Bowen gone, and Shane Bowen's kind of bounced back and been okay for the last couple of years as the defensive coordinator. I kind of started to wonder, is it not so much that Mike Vrabel is just like overly loyal to these guys as he was so aware or so sure that the bigger issue was the poor roster build that he did not want to sacrifice his coaches for not being able to get more out of crappy players. And now that John Robinson has been fired, and that sort of caveat, that sort of target, that sort of blame, that sort of person to take the blame for what Vrabel really maybe thought was the problem is gone. He's holding the coaches a little bit more accountable because he made a lot of changes to the coaching staff in the offseason. Fired Todd Downing, fired the offensive line coach, fired the defensive backs coach, made some other twists and turns, but still mostly promoted from within, which I once again said I don't necessarily think that was the best way to go, but it's neither here nor there. But if you kind of look at the track record, the history of our special teams signings, if you want to say it was John Robinson, because clearly, I mean, if you look at the last like 4 or 5 years of the Titans special teams, they clearly did not prioritize bringing in anybody of any capable quality at kicker. For like 3-4 straight seasons, we've just signed the best available kicker off the scrap heap, but right before training camp, or even during training camp, or even right before the first game of the season. That's how you end up with like a broken Steve Gostkowski. That's how you end up with Fat Randy for 2 years. We have never in the last 4 or 5 years made an effort to sign or draft an actual real punt returner, kick returner. We just draft, sign, fill out the roster, and then we look around and go, maybe you think you can return punts? Go back there. Oh, you fumbled immediately and don't know where to run the ball? Yeah, crap. You over there, your turn. You go try to return a punt for once. Instead of like actually drafting somebody with some experience or some capability to be a returner, or signing somebody with some experience as a punt returner or a kick returner. So I think, like, maybe Vrabel just, had that in his head. Like, special teams have been bad for the entire time Craig Ackerman's been here, but we've also, the guy making all the roster decisions hasn't made any effort to put any quality players on special teams. Lucked into Ryan Stonehouse, like just undrafted free agent who was like one of the best punters in like college football history. And lo and behold, he can actually boom the ball when he comes to the NFL. That's not something Craig Ackerman taught him to do. That's something he already had. Craig Ackerman probably bought himself an extra year just because of that. But I think this year, with the firings he did in the offseason, with him firing Craig Ackerman this end season, I think, he's now holding the coaches accountable. He's now saying, we're starting to build a roster that is capable of doing things. If they fall short, it's got to fall on the coaches at this point in time, because Rand Carthon's not going anywhere. Mike Vrabel himself, probably isn't planning on going anywhere. So it's time for other people to start falling on the sword. And I mean, there's no way you couldn't blame Craig Ackerman for that situation. You can say like, well, I mean, it's up to the players to like make that adjustment, like recognize that there was an overload on one side and adjust the blocking coverage for the punts. But you know who's supposed to teach the players that? Who's supposed to teach them when to recognize that when there's an overload? The coach. Who clearly hadn't done that? The coach. So I think there's a certain degree where I'm now starting to give Vrabel a little bit of leeway for being a little bit more lenient, a little bit more loyal to his coaches, because I do think, I mean, if you don't think he thought the roster sucked and that there was only so much they could do, look at the moment, the most famous moment is him in the draft room when the trade to send A.J. Brown to the Eagles was finalized. You just see how pissed off and how angry he is. You can just tell he's not happy with that decision. And there was a moment late in last season where I can't remember what the exact question was or what the terminology of the question was, but it's something about maybe like trying to get more passing going, try not to like run as much on like first down or something like that. And like Vrabel like literally said, "Who the F should we throw the ball to?" How many times do you see a head coach like say something like that? Like literally saying like, we've got nobody to throw the ball to. Like, who the F would you want our quarterback to throw the ball to? Like, we have to run the ball because all we got is Derrick Henry. That was a direct quote. That was a direct message saying, traded one of the best wide receivers in the NFL away, left me with the broken corpse of Robert Woods. So it was clear that up until this season, Vrabel maybe was giving coaches the benefit of the doubt because he knew the roster was just complete crap, that the roster build was complete crap under John Robinson. A little more accountability for the coaches now, but that also falls to Vrabel at some point in time. I don't think he's in jeopardy. I think he survives this season. I think he moves on. I think they're going to give him the chance with all the free agent or with all the salary cap we're going to have to rebuild, the potential top 10, top 5 draft pick we're going to have. He's going to get the chance to rebuild this team to really get it back on top. So he's not any threat, but the margin for error has definitely gotten small for him. But yeah, so Dolphins are going to kill us. Yeah, so Monday Night Football is not going to be fun. So it's very lucky for NFL fans that there's going to be a second game that they have the option to watch. But unfortunately, it is Giants versus Packers, which is not going to be much better. But good scheduling by the NFL to at least try to make a alternative game or secondary game that people can watch. So yeah, I might do a live watch along. I haven't decided what we're going to do for Monday yet. Like, I'll definitely be watching the game, obviously, but I don't really have a vlog currently planned or scheduled for Monday, so we might just do a live watch along Monday to fill our slot on Monday. We'll see. I don't know. Stay tuned. The only way you'll know for sure if we do that is if you're subscribed to the channel with the bell turned on for notifications, so you get alerts and updates anytime we post any new content or go live. Thank you for watching. Happy Friday night. Happy holidays. Until next time, enjoy your life.